Hello there, this is Sheldon again. Welcome back to iOS tutorials. Today I'm gonna do one quick demo requested by one of my viewers, which is JSON downloading into UI PickerView. So I think this is a quite good request because sometimes when we work on UI PickerView, we should get data from the web service instead of just locally. So I'm going to show you this demo. In this tutorial, I also will use the local JSON server, which I have already posted one tutorial in another video. So I will post the link down in the description. But that video will only take you 5 minutes to finish. So using that tool, we can set up whatever JSON server as we want locally. So let's get started. All right, here we are at Xcode, and as you guys can see, I have created one single view controller project that we only have one view controller, the Swift file, as well as one app delegate and one main.storyboard. So if we come to the UI storyboard file, we are gonna see an empty view controller where we gonna put some buttons in our UI view controllers. So I plan to put a view first. So let's search UI view and let's set up the layout for our view using auto layout. So left, right, bottom, and height. And next up, we're gonna set a toolbar. So toolbar will be attached to the top of our super view. So let's set everything like this. So we're gonna have one button, but let's also put a space there. We can put a flexible space. In this case, after we put a flexible space, this right button will be attached to the right of the toolbar. We can define our button as select. And last step, we can put our picker view. Yes, also we can set up the auto layout as 0, 0, 0, 0. So now we have a super view. We have a container view that contains everything related to this toolbar. Okay, so now we can do something. So let me show you guys first the JSON server that I have set up, as I mentioned in the beginning of the video tutorial. So in the JSON server that I have set up, if we go to the main layer, it will show the whole dictionary, which contains basically two arrays that I want to select. So first, I want to set a button that user can use it to select Monday through Sunday, and the second button, I want to select the user to select from different locations like Tokyo, Beijing, Chicago, Dallas, whatever. So this UI picker view will be reused when the user want to do different selection. So let's quickly drag also two buttons here. Also, let's put an activity indicator. Okay, so now we have two buttons and two indicators that, because all the options will not be set locally, instead we're gonna have this array parsed through JSON services, and then we will show them in the options here. All right, so next up, let's connect to those IP outlets. So we can open your view controller and then hold the option and enter. So in this case, we can easily find the corresponding files, and then we can drag the IP outlets. So we can see activity 1. Yeah, just activity 1. Second, activity 2. And also we can drag a few actions. show DOW. We can choose action here, and also show location. Also choose action. Okay, and one more. This select button. Select. I guess we also need a label to say which or what did we just select. So let's just simply put a label there and in the center. Okay. So let's drag a label here. Res label. Okay. I mean, we're gonna drag a IB only for the super view called container view, as well as the picker view. Okay, so I think we're good enough to configure all the UI elements. One thing, if you want to do here, you can control and drag this UI picker view to our view controller and choose delegate as well as data source. We're making our view controller as the delegate and the data source for our UI picker view controller. Okay, so let's delete all some unnecessary spaces as well. As I said, we're gonna do something related to JSON downloading. So let's quickly build another class called web service class. Let's call it web manager. Okay, so in this web manager, we're gonna define some class function like download from URL, which is MS URL or just the URL. Okay, and in this case, we can also write completion handlers to give us the result is simply an array of strings. So what we're doing here is we are defining a completion handler because this download JSON will be multi-thread operation. So in the main thread, we invoke downloading JSON and it will download the data in the background thread. But after the service completed, it will give us the completion handler, which will contain some information. In our case, because we know what we're downloading will be an array of strings, so I'm simply setting the completion handler, the content of the completion handler, to be an array of strings. So let's do the content of our class function, which will be URL session dot download task data task. Sorry, we're gonna use shared to get the instance and then use data task with URL with completion handler. Okay, so the URL is the input of the URL. So this URL is matching this URL, and this completion handler, we need to write something. Okay, so this completion handler happens when everything is downloaded, and we are defining all the data response and error. Okay, so first step, if there is error, we can simply, if there is error means error happens, this means we are not gonna get anything. So we're gonna just simply give an empty Yes, we're gonna simply give an empty array of nothing. I mean, empty array of strings. And also you guys can see that the compilers help us to add one keyword at escaping here. This means we're gonna return something in the completion handler which will require at escaping. So you don't need to worry about this. Even if you forget to input this, the compiler will help you to add it to it. Okay. Next step, else. And let's remove the spaces. In here, this case means there's no error. So we're gonna get the data here. But if you remember, this data is kind of optional. So we have to do something. So let's define an object is equal to something. So we're gonna use JSON serialization dot JSON object with data, right? Because we have this data here. And options, we can use JSON serialization dot reading options dot mutable leaves. So if you have any question about all the options here, why we use mutable leaves, I have another video that give you the basic idea of JSON downloading, and also I will put that link of that video tutorial down in the video description here in this one. So what's the issue now? Yes. So as you guys can see, because the data here is kind of optional, so we're gonna write garlet data is equal to data. So this data is matching this data, but we are kind of renaming a new thing, to make sure it exists. So if this guy is existing, we're gonna simply return, but before that we need to completion, give some value to our completion handler as well. Okay, so if the data is not existing, we return and give a completion handler also empty. So now we are having a JSON object, and let's do another garlet, because we are sure that we're gonna get an array of dictionaries. I mean, array of strings. So let's just name res array is equal to obj as an array of strings. So in this case, we are making sure we're getting the correct kind of object. So if this thing not happens, we do the similar thing as what we have done here. And now we are kind of make sure res array is the correct thing. And the only thing next we need to do is just give this res array as the completion handler. Okay, so I think we have just done something to create. Although we only have one function in our web service manager, but that's all we need. And let me close all the spaces here, and we're ready to use our functions, which is called download JSON from URL with completion handler. Okay, let's do it. So let's visit our server. Actually, it's here, I think. Yes. So if you collect the base layer of the DB, you can obviously see day of week is a dictionary and that the content is an array. But actually, using this JSON server, which is a good part, is it already help you generate one sublink. So if you click this guy, it will directly give you an array, right? So what's the URL for this? It's just localhost 3000 / day of week. So let's do that. So let's define day of week. Let's define the URL. Let's first define the string. URL string is equal to this thing, and URL is equal to URL. NS URL or URL with string URL string. Okay, so now we're having the URL for our day of week, and if we use web manager dot download JSON from URL, we can simply put the URL there, and in the completion handler we will have, as you guys can see, we'll have a array of string as a completion handler that we're gonna return. So let's put a res array, and for now let's just try to print it. All right, so what's the issue now? Okay, so when we use URL from string, actually we are returning also an optional value, right? As you guys can see, it's an optional value. So let's use a garlet. Garlet URL then is equal to URL, else simply we just return it. Means in this case, if the URL is not existing, we simply do nothing. Definition conflicts with previous value. Let's see, valid URL. This should be working. There's okay, so it looks it's working now, and let's simply run our project for the very first time. Right, looks fine. Let's run it. Let's choose iPhone 7. It's run. All right, it looks like our app is crashing some line. So let's see. Invalid number of components in PickerView. Okay, so because we have already set up the UI PickerView data source, and we haven't put anything there. So there is few required function. As you guys can see, URL PickerView data source and delegate. So in the data source, there will be some required function. Yes, this whole protocol is required. So we have to write a few functions there, otherwise the app will crash. But actually, let's because we're not on the PickerView yet, so we can simply remove data source and delegate. We can do it later, but now we are trying to test our NSURL session is working on that. Okay, so now we have to delete these two guys here as well. And let's run our project again. Yes, so it's running, and let's hit choose DOW. Right, nothing is happening, so let's set a breakpoint here. If we click choose day of week, this function got invoked, and let's see if we continue. Nothing is happening. Let's see if yes, we forgot one thing actually. So when we use URL session share session.data task, we have to put resume at the end. This is like continuously hit the service, otherwise it won't work. Just don't forget to put resume here. This time I believe there will be one more issue that we need to fix because we are using HTTP instead of HTTPS. So let's disable the breakpoint, and right, we're using HTTP instead of HTTPS. So simply we can come to the info.plist. At the end, we just add one row. To choose app transport security. It's not something new. It was there like 2 years ago. So we need to, by default, Apple will disable all the HTTP requests. In this case, we're kind of force allowing all the HTTP services to get through, but it's not really a good practice because you won't only trust HTTPS. So now if we click choose day of week, this results is coming. I mean, because we're expecting an array of strings and everything is fine actually, because even if the typecasting is fine here, so we're successfully getting this array, which is cool. So let's do something extra on the indicators actually. So in the view did load, we can first make activity 1.animated start animating and activity 2.start animating. I mean, before that, we can make these two guys is hidden, because we only want to see them when the web services happens. Is hidden also is true. Okay, so before we invoke the web services, right, we need to add one line. Activity 1 dot is hidden is equal to false. So in this case, we are setting this activity is to be shown. And now after we get the results, we're making it to be hidden again. All right. Let's do the same thing. Actually, because this is in the completion handler, we need to use self. And all right, we're gonna do the same thing for the second guy as well. It's not day of week anymore. It's actually location. And we're gonna use activity 2 instead of activity 1. So let's run our project again to see what's gonna happen. Okay, so if we hit choose day of week, it looks like it's not hidden. All right, let's do the second one. Choose location. So it shows as we expected, but it didn't. It's not hidden as we expected. What's the reason? So the reason actually is when we are downloading our JSON, right? We are switching ourselves to the background thread using this kind of block, right? Downloading JSON with completion block. So until this moment, we are still at the background thread. To get back to the main thread, we're gonna use dispatch queue.main.async. So in this case, we are switching ourselves back to the main thread, and all the UI elements operation should be on the main thread. And that's the reason when we try to operate any UI elements, in this case is activity indicator, when we try to operate it, it's not responding because we are working it on the background thread. So now choose day of week, boom, as a result comes, this guy is also dismissed. Same as the choose location. Once we got the result, the activity indicator is gone. Okay, so everything is done except for the logic for our UI PickerView. So let's put something UI PickerView data source and UI PickerView delegate. Okay. I think probably we're gonna do the UI PickerView data source. That should be enough, I think. What we're gonna do is here in the view did load, we're gonna use PickerView dot data source is equal to self, and PickerView delegate is equal to self, and this is to set the handler to be the current class, which is UI view controller, to handle all the UI events that happens on UI PickerView. And we can put those data source functions, I think there will be only two functions, which is here and here. So yes, number of components and the number of rows. I mean components, we will only have one all the time. And for the number of rows, let's simply put 0 for now. So there will be two different scenarios. I mean, for obviously when we select day of week, we're gonna have 7 selections. And when we select locations, in our case, we're gonna only have 4 there. So it's gonna be a little bit tricky to handle how many, number of rows and also the titles. So we're gonna use one delegate function called, I think, title for row. Yes, this one. Function PickerView. Right, so we're gonna have strings as for the titles of the rows. So what we're gonna do? What's the best practice here? So actually I think the best practice will be we are setting an array that we're gonna hold all the information from the web services. So let's actually set one array. Let's call it private var option or selections array. Will be an array of strings, and initially it's just something, is just empty string, empty array of strings. All right. So we don't need to care about these two things here yet. We're gonna do those things public array. Okay. Yeah, let's just do it for now. Okay. So our selections array is simply equal to result array. In this case, when we get the result, we are assigning the result of array's value to the self.selection array. Same thing will happen here. All right, we are assigning the value to it, and now what we need to do is just when the number of rows, we use selection array.account. When we choose title, we just use selection array dot row. Right? Dot, not dot, it's just a row. This is pretty like when we set the table view, something similar is happening. Let's see if it's working. So I only have one concern here because we kind of missing information after we click. Never mind, let's just run our project to see what's gonna happen. All right, if you hit choose days of week, yes, so looks like everything's fine, and when we scroll it, it will choose the corresponding thing. Right, looks like fine. And if we hit choose location, and it's actually, refreshing correctly as we expected. Okay, so let's do the final thing, right? So when we hit the select button, when we do the select button, what we need to do is just to assign the result label.text is equal to PickerView dot selected row in component 0. We only want one component. This means it's pretty much like the section. It's like the section of the table, but it's called a component. Okay, so we're gonna have selection array. So if we hit choose day of week, we're gonna have all the selections. If we select, it will choose Wednesday, and also if we choose locations, it will choose Chicago, and in this case, it's Beijing. And let's do the final thing, which is in the view did load, we simply make the container view dot alpha is equal to 0. So means it's kind of hidden, and we're gonna create one little function called, let's put a mark here, PickerView daily and data source. Let's make one more function related to our animation, which is showing, yes, animate showing picker view with, of course, completion handler. In this case, we're gonna do nothing but UI view dot animate with duration. We put 0.5 there, and let's put self.PickerView dot alpha is equal to 1, and function something similar, but we called animate showing this is hiding, this is showing. The hiding is 0 and the showing is 1. Alright. So, and also let's put a completion. I don't know even if we need this completion or not. Completion. Yeah, probably not actually. Alright, let's simply put them here. Yeah, let's actually we don't even need it, but sorry, not PickerView. We can only operate the container view. Container view. And let's, when we dump the JSON, we use self.showing and also self.showing, and when we select, after we select, we use animate hiding. Okay. I think that's all we need, and at the end of the day, we should be able to build a pretty nice app. Yes, so at the beginning, nothing is happening. I mean, you can change the placeholder for this label. It looks like ugly here. It shows label. And when you choose day of week, and after you got the result, this one is kind of hiding. And when you do date select, it will hiding with animation. So we can make this a little bit longer, probably 1 second. Yes, when you choose day of week, it shows the indicator, it runs, you get the result, and shows the activity thing. It shows the picker with animation. When you select, it also will disappear with animation, as well as choose. And also the indicator is indicating all the web service. When we start web service, we show the indicator, and when we get the result here, we just hide the indicator. Okay, I think this will wrap up our simple project of downloading JSON into your PickerView. As I mentioned in the beginning of this video, this demo project is requested by one of my viewers. So if you guys have good idea of demoing anything, just leave any message or comments. If you don't want to miss any good content from my channel, just subscribe and also leave a like. Also leave any comments if you want. And also please share the video if you think the content is good for other developers. Okay, this is Sheldon Gun and welcome you guys to see my next tutorial soon. Alright, have a good rest of your day.